Today we're reviewing the PS5 DualSense Evil controller, and not only is she not evil, she's actually treated me pretty good. These 4 remappable rear buttons, they feel pretty good on the fingertips. This comes with the longest right stick I've ever seen in my life. The shaft or stem is not messing around lengthwise. Not only is it long, but there is increased thumbstick tension, 200 grams of resistance, so you better have a strong thumb. And the weirdest thing about these controllers, there are no reviews on the internet, or at least on YouTube. These controllers aren't bad. In fact, I would go as far as to say they're relatively good in the premium and custom controller market, but nobody's reviewing them. I'll be the one. I'll do it. PS5 DualSense Evil controller. Let's get the review. A couple weeks ago, I made a video where I ordered 2 custom controllers from 2 different companies for almost $600. If you saw that video, then you know the BBC Battle Beaver Customs. I had to pay out of pocket for shipping, and the estimated delivery was sometime between my retirement and the return of Jesus Christ. The Evil controller over here got to my doorstep in less than 2 weeks, free shipping, and was substantially cheaper than the Battle Beaver's custom. However, it is missing a lot of cosmetic options, such as the rear shell, trigger, and bumpers. Honestly, in post-editing, I noticed the price difference isn't that substantial, and also keep in mind that I did utilize a coupon code for the AIM controller, and I didn't even think to look one for the Battle Beaver's custom, so it's probably very similar in price. Now, this bad boy as spec'd out here came out to a subtotal of $264.70. However, I did bust out my shovel and dig up a little coupon code after scavenging, and found a $25 off coupon. I believe that was save 25, whatever it is. It will be linked down there in the description below in case you do pick up one of these controllers. You can save a couple of shekels in your coin purse as well, which brought the total down to $239.70, and that was also tax-free for some reason and shipping included. So the total out the door was just under $240. Now, I did opt out of getting a carrying case, but I would still expect there to be branded packaging, as where this is just a generic brown cardboard box. I wouldn't expect any laser cut foam or anything, but there's no bubble wrap, there's no packing peanuts. It's literally just this moisture wicking material here. By the way, this has a freakishly long right analog stick, like the longest I've ever seen. We'll talk about that in just a minute, ladies. But because this is just in here in a box like this, the right analog stick was literally cocked to the side or bent for its entire shipping journey. Which, considering all these controllers use the same Partspin Special Alps thumbstick modules that inevitably get stick drift, putting additional pressure or tension on them during the shipping process is just a no-can-do. It's just a no-can-do, my friends. So even if you do opt out of getting an optional carrying case to save money like I did, you would still expect to have a branded box letting you know what product is arriving, and something better than this moisture-wicking bag holding your controller in place, and most importantly, protecting those thumbsticks. You do have an instruction manual over here. As you know, I'm a bit of a connoisseur snob when it comes to instruction manuals or pamphlets, and you don't have an instruction manual per se. You do have this one piece of documentation, if you will, that also doubles as a sticker on this side, which has a little reminder, hey, peel me. That's what you do with a sticker. But on this side, it will tell you how to remap the paddles. Now, I do believe you will only receive this if you did opt for the remappable paddles, which we of course did. I always do advise when you're going through the builder on a custom or premium controller website that you do opt into remappable paddles, even if you're somebody like myself that 99% of the time uses the same button or key bindings to these rear buttons or paddles. It's still good to have if you ever do play a game that uses different bindings, or you share this controller with somebody. I do be liking these rear buttons though. It's nice. If any of you are wondering what controller that is a Scuf Reflex, and if you're wondering why it's there, it's the last controller that I unboxed on the channel. That review will be linked in the description below, and it's sitting there because it has been my daily driver and basically my go-to controller since I got it. As for warranty, do not go off the information here at warranty information on their website. This is absolutely inaccurate. I have never once heard of there being a lifetime warranty on any of their products, or if there is in place on paper, it has never been honored. What you should go off of is the pricing and features of the warranty when you're at the end of the builder and you are able to select a warranty option. Here's a clip of that now. Oh, here we go. Oh, all right. Another company with paid warranties. So the basic warranty at least is 12 months, not 1 month. Holy shit, Battle Beaver. For real? Beaver, damn. All right, check this out. This is fun right here. So the standard warranty, the missionary position one that you get by default, is 1 year. However, it doesn't cover stick drift, which makes sense because I do believe they probably start with licensed PlayStation DualSense controllers and then modify from there. So it's not really their thumbstick modules, but it'd be nice if they offered the option, which they do, but you got to pay for it. But they will not cover stick drift and no shipping coverage. So if this thing gets absolutely demolished by your UPS guy, now if you want to pay an additional $50, you can get 18 months. So you get 6 months for $50, and that will cover thumbsticks. No shipping coverage though. And then over here, if you want to sell a kidney and drop $90 extra, you can get 2-year warranty, which covers stick drift and shipping coverage. I'm just going to live dangerously. So some of the quirks and features of this controller. Well, starting with the quirks, first of all, Evil is missing a ton of cosmetic or appearance customization on their builder. You can't do anything with the rear shell. You cannot do anything with the bumpers and triggers or the touchpad. That's insane because there is a difference between premium controllers that are already pre-built. For example, the Microsoft Elite, the Razer Wolverine, the Razer Raiju, the Astro C40, the Nacon Revolution, the Victrix Gambit, just to name a few controllers that I've tested on the channel here. Those are one size fits all. They have one price point. There's no customization. You just buy it as is, and those features are good enough for you. Now, a custom controller, something like AIM, Hex Gaming, Cinch Gaming, Battle Beaver, Mega Mods, Dream controllers, etc. Not Dream controllers either, because you can't really tweak, is the fact that you have an online builder where you can select the color of the options and share buttons, put your own custom logo on the touchpad, get different colored thumbsticks and face buttons, and hydro-dipped rear shells. And Evil is the only custom controller company I've ever seen that lacks so many customization options, which isn't a huge deal if you are strictly in it for the performance modifications, such as the rear buttons and increased thumbstick tension. But when you're already spending $200+ on a controller, you probably want it to look exactly like you want. Another quirk, this does have the longest right stick I have ever seen in my life for a factory or OEM controller, so not a extended thumbstick cap that you add yourself. It claims that this is a 17.87 millimeter, but it looks way higher than that. It is a freakishly long stick, which she did not say, unfortunately. So some of the notable features of this controller, you do have 4 remappable rear buttons that are sunken into the rear shell and have a very nice ergonomic design, and you do have a very long right stick, which does also have increased thumbstick tension at 200 grams. Also, Evil is one of the few custom controller companies out there that does offer mod chips as well. So if you want a mod chip soldered on the board, mods that allow you to do things like shoot a semi-automatic weapon in full auto by simply holding down the trigger, or automatically do a drop shot, or automatically hold breath. Now keep in mind, you cannot use these in tournaments, and I recommend you don't use them in any online multiplayer, but for single player campaigns or zombie mode in Call of Duty or something, go for it. And a quirk that I am personally not a fan of is the fact that if you do opt for the rear buttons, which I recommend you do, you automatically have to remove the haptic feedback motors, or rumbles as they call it on their website. But there's not some sloppy rumble force motors in here. There is actually haptic feedback, which is incredibly accurate and will be used in virtually every first-party Sony Interactive Entertainment or SIE game. I do have a separate video going over why the adaptive triggers and haptic feedback of the DualSense controller are two awesome features and should never be removed from a DualSense controller unless you strictly use this on PC or playing PS4 games on the PS5. But if you plan on playing PS5 games on your PS5 with a PS5 controller, the DualSense, you don't want to remove those two features. That video is linked in the description below. But unfortunately, if you add the rear buttons, which I mean is the main feature of this controller, you do have to remove the haptic feedback motors, which sucks. Ergonomics, they're using the licensed shell of the DualSense controller, so this is identical to a standard DualSense controller, measurements on screen here. As for the weight, she comes in at 8.3 ounces, which is incredibly light. That is most likely because the haptic feedback motors are removed. Now, they do not note or annotate on their website that the adaptive triggers have been modified or removed, and I genuinely hope they haven't, because again, that is another feature that you do not want to remove from these controllers. Now, the build quality feels pretty good. There's no creaks or moans and groans. When I flex this controller back and forth, I don't hear anything. Also, these rear buttons do look quite sturdy and secure. There's no wonky panel gaps or anything like that. Everything seems very well put together, and I haven't really heard of any reliability or quality control problems from Evil controllers, but a lot of that might be due to the fact that there really isn't a lot of reviews on the internet about Evil controllers, especially this one. There's actually only one that I found on YouTube. It's from this gentleman right here that starts off with his fire alarm chirping because he doesn't have a battery in it.
For about a month and a half, I haven't seen any other videos, So I was like, why not? So you guys can see.
So that's the only real DualSense Evil controller review on the internet. So maybe that's why I'm not hearing a whole heck of a lot of complaints about the quality control of these bad boys, is just the fact that these aren't really being reviewed. So D-pad, face buttons, touchpad, share button, option button, these are all OEM Sony, so they feel identical to a standard DualSense controller. Same thing with the triggers and bumpers, so we don't really need to cover much there. Now, as for these thumbsticks, like I mentioned, this does have the longest right stick I have ever seen. This is advertised as being a 17.87 millimeter on the right stick and an 11 millimeter on the left stick. These are the options that I chose, and these are convex sticks. So if you're looking for dome sticks, they label them as convexed, which is another word for dome sticks, so opposite of a concaved or dipped stick.
Remapping the rear buttons on an Evil controller is freakishly simple. My mother used to dribble me on my forehead like a Harlem Globetrotter, and I figured this out in about 5 seconds. What you're going to do is hold down the touchpad in combination with one of the rear buttons, or shift buttons as they call them, that you would like remapped. Let's go ahead and hold down that touchpad in combination with the rear button that you want remapped. How about this one right here? She feels good on the fingertips. You'll get a little flash from the touch bar. Boom, just like that. Now this is the button we want remapped. I want it remapped across. Boom, little epileptic seizure. What I don't like, it doesn't stay in remapping mode. You have to continue the process for each and every button. So now I want to remap this rear button. I'm going to hold down the touchpad as well as this rear button. You're going to get a little flash. Now I want this to be circle. Boom, another epileptic seizure. Now, as you can see, no face buttons are being used. I'm jumping, I'm diving, I'm sliding. Whoop, no I'm not, there we go. Now I'm sliding. And I did mention earlier that I didn't know if the adaptive triggers had been removed from this controller. They have not been. So as I'm using the bow right now, there's a lot of resistance. As you can see, it's actually moving my finger on its own. Good, I just died because I wasn't paying attention. Don't really give a fuck anyway. I'm not a tremendous fan of this Hydro Dip graphic, but it's also not ugly either. This is definitely not an ugly controller. I just wish that you could do something with the touchpad, rear shell, triggers, and bumpers to fully deck out that customization. I'll see you back in the game room. So I've been using the Evil DualSense controller as my daily driver for the last 4 or 5 days, getting about 35 hours of stick time across 4 different games, 3 first-person shooters, and then Elden Ring, which is a Souls-like game, so basically using the back buttons to dodge constantly and parry and try and not get my tits slapped back unsuccessfully. My initial impressions are quite good. First of all, I do like the rear button design. I think it is very ergonomic. It is up and out of the way when you don't need the buttons, as it is pretty much flush or sunken into the rear shell. When you do need to hit them, you do get a nice, satisfying tactile click out of them. It's not mechanical per se. You're not getting like the feeling of like a mouse click or a mechanical keyboard that has an actual mechanical switch in it. I do believe it is still a membrane design. I'm not going to disassemble this, but I'm assuming there'd be a rubber plunger mechanism underneath there. But it still feels good. It is tactile, it is clicky, it is responsive. It requires a good amount of resistance, so you're not going to get a lot of false actuations out of them, which I greatly appreciate. The overall fit and finish just feels very premium. Now, I will say the Hydro Dip graphic on here is a little bit underwhelming. It's not quite as pretty as the pictures make it out to be. It's much like when they make a Burger King or McDonald's meal look like an absolute gourmet feast, and then you see it in person and it looks like a ferret that your dog killed in the backyard a week ago. That's kind of how this looks. I mean, obviously this doesn't look like a dead ferret, and honestly, I mean, in the builder, I think I did a pretty good job of utilizing the options they do have available. I have these translucent green face buttons to go with the green shell over here, and then over here with this moon design, I went with a gray or smoked translucent D-pad, which I think looks pretty good, but they don't really have a whole heck of a lot of options that really screamed out to me. A lot of them were just basically gradients or solid metallic colors, so a little bit bland and boring in the cosmetics department when you compare them to some gorgeous controllers out there like AIM and Hex Gaming. But just from a sheer performance factor, which in my opinion is more important than cosmetics or looks anyway, it is actually a very good controller because of the rear buttons and the analog sticks. I'm also quite a big fan, as you do have increased thumbstick tension. Now it says it is 200 grams of resistance. It doesn't really feel like that big of a difference, but that is because you have such a long right stick, at least on this model here. If you push down here at the actual stem or base of the stick, instead of up here at the tip where you get a lot more leverage, if you press down here and then press on the regular left stick, which has no increased thumbstick tension on this controller, you can get increased thumbstick tension on the left, but why would you pay for that? It's just for movement. Your actual camera movement or aiming on the right stick is where you want that increased thumbstick tension and a higher right stick, so you can bump up your in-game sensitivity a couple of clicks. It does feel good. I wish there was just slightly more resistance, like maybe 230 or 250 grams of resistance, but 200's fine. It's not terrible. And I think it just feels a little weak because you have such a high right stick on there. If you had a standard size right stick, it would probably feel a lot more strong and hard to press. They have different warranty tiers that you actually need to pay for if you want a decent warranty. And I still use the word decent because it's not great. Aim controllers does have a lifetime warranty. And I personally like that paddle design more because you can remove 1, 2, all of the paddles if you want. So if you share the controller with somebody that doesn't like rear paddles or buttons, you can remove them, yet they do feel very tactile and clicky when you're using them. Plus, if you're not going for any of the hot cosmetics and whatnot, which you can easily get into like the $350 range, but if you're just going for performance modifications and want a remappable, comfortable 4-paddle controller, and you skip all the cosmetics or appearance upgrades, then use my coupon code, which is good for 10%, any order of $50 or more, you can get a paddle controller for around $150. You can get a rear mappable 4-paddle controller for about $150. Well, I almost made it through an entire video without making up a new word or splicing two together, but now you got rear mappable paddles. Instead of rear buttons that are remappable, you got rear mappable rear buttons. So when you compare that to the $264.70 I spent with Evil and the $292.78 I spent at Battle Beavers Custom, I am very much looking forward to getting my hands on the BBC. That did not sound good at all. The Battle Beavers Custom. I wonder if they knew at their little naming convention that there's another acronym that they share with BBC. Battle Beavers Custom, my favorite category of controller. I'm really excited to get my hands on that one because I think that is probably the highest end or most premium, highest end flagship DualSense controller out there because it offers the most features, at least on paper, on the builder. You can change the positioning of where the buttons are drilled into the rear shell. They have 2 different levels of thumbstick resistance that you can choose, and they have a dickload of cosmetic options just like aim, hex gaming, mega mods, etc. And overall, I've heard good things from the Battle Beaver community, the Battle Beavers, I guess you could call them. Like I said, there's only one Evil DualSense controller review on the market, the one that we took a little peek at. So these just simply aren't being reviewed. And I don't think it's because they're bad controllers. I just think that the competition is so thick, so ripe, so lush with good premium and custom controller companies that maybe Evil is kind of slipping through the cracks because it is a hard space to break out in. There's a lot of really good companies out there. Fortunately, I do think Evil's one of them. I've got no complaints with this controller thus far. This is just my initial review. I'll probably do a follow-up going over one of the most important things, and that is going to be long-term reliability, longevity. Did it develop stick drift? Did one of the face buttons jam up on me? Well, that probably won't happen because with a controller with rear paddles or buttons, I hardly ever actually use the face buttons. I pretty much exclusively use the back buttons. So do the back buttons go out? So until I can give you guys that update, bada bing, bada boom, the Evil controller is pretty sweet, but at the end of the day, you gotta do what you gotta do. My apologies, my Italian accent might have broken free for a minute there. What I meant to say is, according to my calculations, this is a pretty damn good controller. My initial impressions are pretty damn good. So pros and cons. I think any good review has a pros and cons section. That's how you're going to deliberate at the end and make a verdict, slam the meat gavel on the table as to if this is a good purchase or not. The pros. First of all, price to performance, relatively good. I am going to be doing a tier list in the very near future, a very detailed, probably very long video where I compare all of the premium and custom controllers that I have tested and reviewed on this channel, which is literally like dozens. But as of now, just from my knowledge, knowing what I have and have not tested, these are quite comparably priced. They are par for the course of what you're going to get with any other custom controller company on the market. There are ones that are slightly cheaper if you're going to skip the cosmetic upgrades and go strictly for performance only. For example, AIM has a very good value. The next pro is going to be the button design. I like them. They're ergonomic, they're comfortable, they feel good, they sound good, i.e. they're not very loud, and they're relatively easy to remap. I will list that as a con as well, that it doesn't stay in remapping mode. You have to basically put it back into remapping mode each time you want to move on to the next button. The next pro is going to be the thumbsticks. I like the rubber or silicone compound that they're using on the stock thumbsticks. I also do like the different options that they have on their builder, and I do like the fact that they have a very, very high stick option, so you don't have to go with anything like Control Freaks. I mean, nobody in their right mind is going to put a Control Freaks on top of this, or else you would literally have to dislocate your thumb to stretch up there. It'd be like the damn shifter on an 18-wheeler on a big rig. I also do like the increased resistance. Granted, I do wish it was a little bit stronger, but you can tell that there is increased resistance or strength on the right analog stick versus a stock stick. The cons, their warranty is absolute trash. You have to pay for anything even decent, and even the paid warranty still isn't great. Alexa knows on. As for the cons, there's a major lack of customization in their builder, which I think a lot of people that are in the market for a custom controller and are already willing to spend a pretty penny on a controller are most likely going to pop for cosmetic or appearance upgrades. And it does look kind of silly or stupid, for lack of a better term, when you have a custom hydro dipped front shell and trim piece, but a stock white touch bar, stock white rear shell. You know, you can't change the color of the rear buttons back here. You can't change the color of the bumpers and triggers. It feels half finished. It feels half customized. The next con, it's kind of clumsy to remap these paddles because you have to re-enter remapping mode each time you want to do a different button. As where most controllers, you put it into a remapping mode where it's flashing, and then you can simply bind all the buttons, and then you exit mapping mode. And that is all I have as of now. Again, this is an initial review. I will be doing one probably a few months down the road when I've got more stick time, where I will update you guys with things like long-term longevity or reliability. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers. This information will reach and assist them as well, which in turn helps me grow this little channel, which I do greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover news in the gaming community and industry, tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, as well as honest gaming product reviews, keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, mics, chairs, etc. There are some hefty exclusive discount codes found only in the description of my videos and only for the audience here at Gamer Heaven. Check out Into the AM for some of the sickest looking and most comfortable cloth to ever grace my gaming giblets. If you don't want to be scorching your corneas with harmful blue light, check out Gamer Advantage, the only blue light glasses on the market that look sexy and actually work. If you're looking for a custom controller that'll blow the competition's tits back, AIM definitively has the best bang for buck or price to performance when it comes to Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch controllers. Nope, they don't do Switch, but they do gaming mice. I said doo-doo. I have links to all my other platforms and socials in the description below. If you need a quick laugh or blast of gamer adrenaline, check my short form videos out at TikTok. Follow me at Facebook Gaming, where I am a partner and upload a ton of exclusive gameplay content. To get in touch with myself and the Stallions and Stallionettes of Gamer Heaven, join the community Discord, and check me out at twitch.tv, where I go live every other leap year on a blue moon if it falls into an odd calendar number, and my pH balance is on point. Just kidding. Starting June, I'm going to be live streaming a lot. Thanks for watching. This has been AK40 Kevin hosting Gamer Heaven, and I'll see you tomorrow because I upload daily. All the time. 60% of the time. Sometimes. Most of the time. Peace.